Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. In today's video, we're going to be covering the weirdest theories, ranking them all the way up to the weirdest theory of all. I've covered a few of these on the channel in the past, but there are also some new ones. These are going to be explained fairly succinctly, but if you want the full version of one of these theories, you can find it on the channel's homepage. Which weird Harry Potter theories do you guys know? Do you think you can guess them? Without further ado, let's get started. Number 5. George Weasley is Willy Wonka. This extremely weird theory connects the Harry Potter universe, written by J.K. Rowling, with the universe of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, another fictional tale written by Roald Dahl. However, this audacious theory certainly doesn't just loosely connect the two worlds. It actually suggests that George Weasley is Willy Wonka. The theory, put quite succinctly, suggests that George Weasley, after suffering the loss of his brother Fred, uses a time turner to travel back to a different era, making a new life for himself. As we know, George and Fred were the closest of brothers, spending every waking moment with one another. However, when Fred tragically passed away, George was at a bit of a loss for what to do next. Rowling even addressed the issue herself, tragically remarking that George would never get over losing Fred. With his business acumen, having successfully run Weasley's Wizarding Wheezes, and vast knowledge of sweets, George travels back in time and starts a new life in the land of the Muggles, opening Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, sharing his wacky inventions and tasty sweets with the Muggle world. To add to all of this, George even appears to resemble Willy Wonka somewhat. This theory is a stretch and I'm not convinced, but it's definitely a fun idea, and a weird one at that. But before we dive in any further, I've got a word from today's sponsor, Wonder. Wonder is an app that allows you to turn words into digital art. Using their software, your imagination, and just a few word prompts, you can turn your artistic visions into a real piece of digital artwork. All you need to do is enter a prompt, pick an art style, and hit create. From here, you can watch Wonder bring your idea to life. I like using it to frame my favorite characters and places from Harry Potter in a new light. Here's Hogwarts School underwater using the cinematic art style. Here's Voldemort mixed with Dumbledore using the magic art style. Here's Hagrid doing ballet in the Forbidden Forest using the novelistic art style. Here's Hogwarts burning to the ground using the novelistic art style. And here's Severus Snape drinking a margarita on the beach. If you need to bring an idea to life, Wonder can probably do it. If this interests you, click the link in the description box below for a free trial. The trial of the premium version includes unlimited art, no ads, faster load times, and over 20 styles to choose from. So again, if you want to give Wonder a go, click the link in the description box below and get started with your free trial. Back to the video. 4. Mrs. Norris is Filch's wife. This theory discusses Argus Filch, Hogwarts caretaker and resident squib, as well as his trusty feline companion, Mrs. Norris. Now, in the Harry Potter story, it's made quite clear that Argus Filch doesn't love a lot of things. He makes the lives of the student body miserable and exacts what little power he has at every opportunity. However, if there's one thing he does love, it's certainly his cat, Mrs. Norris, a dust-coloured feline with piercing yellow eyes. The two are never apart, except for when they've temporarily decided to scout out different areas of the school. And they seem to have an almost quasi-telepathic connection, as they're able to communicate in spite of the fact that they are just, well, squib and cat. When Mrs. Norris encounters students misbehaving, Filch seems to show up right away, and vice versa. So what could be the explanation for their complicated relationship? In 1992, when Mrs. Norris was petrified by Salazar Slytherin's basilisk, Filch first blamed Harry Potter, who was spotted right at the scene of the crime. Filch is visibly more upset than we've ever seen him before, and says, in front of everyone, "You killed my cat. I'll kill you. I'll kill you." While Filch is bitter and a bit hard to deal with sometimes, he's not usually so violent in nature, and this passion that he's exhibiting, to me, suggests that perhaps he knows Mrs. Norris on a deeper level. Perhaps he knows something about her that the rest of us don't. The theory suggests this: Mrs. Norris is Filch's wife. But how could a cat be his wife? Well, the simple answer to that is that she's a maledictus, that is, the sufferer of a blood curse which caused her to gradually and eventually turn into a cat. This would of course mean that Mrs. Norris was once a woman, and not just any woman, Filch's wife. Again, this theory is a bit of a stretch and a weird one, but it certainly caught my attention. 3. Ron is Dumbledore. Yep, you heard that right. The basis for this Harry Potter fan theory is that Ron Weasley, Harry's best friend, is in fact a time-travelling version of Hogwarts headmaster Albus Dumbledore. The primary arguments for this theory, and there are quite a few, are that Dumbledore seems to know everything that Harry and Ron did and are about to do. Ron and Dumbledore purportedly share some physical similarities, both being described as tall, thin, possessing a long nose that has been broken a few times, and large hands. Dumbledore also had red hair as a boy, which we know because of Tom Riddle's memory. Dumbledore has a scar above his left knee, and Ron received an injury to his left leg, possibly knee area. Both men are obsessed with sweets, and introductions to both characters involve sweets. Dumbledore sees himself holding socks in the Mirror of Erised, which relates to Ron Weasley not appreciating Mrs. Weasley's Christmas socks. However, one of the main drivers behind the theory relates to the Philosopher's Stone, particularly the chess match that Ron participates in order to allow Harry to move on to the next challenge. The argument here is that the chess match is symbolic for the war between good and evil in this series, with Ron being representative of the knight, supporting Harry, and Dumbledore acting as king, controlling everything. Voldemort was able to save his memory in Tom Riddle's diary and was able to come back to the real world through it, so why couldn't Dumbledore achieve something similar? I'm not convinced that this theory has much merit, but it's certainly a weird one. 2. Rowling is Rita Skeeter. Rita Skeeter was a British witch and infamous journalist in the Harry Potter story, who specialised in writing defamation pieces for the Daily Prophet. She was known for her poison pen stories, which she would base around false information and misreported interviews, writing what she believed people would like to read, whether it was real information or not. This theory, put quite succinctly, is simply that Rita Skeeter and J.K. Rowling are one in the same. After being fired from the ministry for being an unregistered animagus, a beetle, Skeeter escapes to the Muggle world, where she publishes her stories as fictional works, eventually adopting the pseudonym J.K. Rowling. I like this one. Number 1. Dudley and Cho theory. And last but certainly not least, the weirdest theory on the list, the Chudley theory. That is, the theory that Dudley Dursley ended up marrying Ravenclaw graduate Cho Chang. This theory came about for a couple of reasons, but the main driver behind it is that Cho Chang ended up marrying a Muggle. That's canon. Cho Chang married a Muggle. Furthermore, we also know that Dudley Dursley ends up getting married himself, but the name of his wife is never revealed. This is basically the entire basis for the theory, an unnamed wife and an unnamed Muggle. We know Dudley Dursley is a Muggle, and while it's unusual for witches and wizards to marry Muggles, it definitely still happens. Often when a witch or wizard is courting a potential Muggle spouse, they fail to mention their magical abilities, which causes tension down the line when their kids start performing magic themselves. The guilt eventually becomes unbearable, and they end up confessing their magical status to their other half. However, the years of lies are not often entirely understood. So, in this respect, the relationship between Cho and Dudley does sort of make sense. If Cho were to have married a regular Muggle, then she would have no doubt encountered the aforementioned difficulties associated with Muggle courtship. However, if she were to end up with Dudley, who is a Muggle, there is the obvious advantage that she would never have to hide anything from him. Dudley was privy to the magical world, and there wouldn't have been much that Cho could have said to put him off or surprise him. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. Cho and Dudley was about as awful as a young boy could be. However, there was a point in Dudley's life at which he hit a bit of a crossroads, the Dementor attack. Though the Dementors weren't able to successfully suck out Dudley's soul, the attack still had a profound impact on him, as it forced him to observe the type of person that he was. After the attack, Dudley certainly changed for the better. And Cho, well, I can definitely see her vacating the wizarding world entirely after the death of Cedric, wanting an escape from the madness of it all. What do you think? Is Chudley canon? And that's it for this video. Had you guys heard of these theories? Are there weirder theories out there that I missed? How would you rank them? Leave a comment down below. Until next time, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live